Good.
Yep.
Yes, we're live.
Nice, cool. Let's wait for 1 or 2 minutes more.
Is everyone muted, or is it just me? Like, I don't know. I want to make sure I can hear everyone.
Yeah.
You can hear me?
Okay. Okay, cool.
Perfect.
All right. We have some people already conversating in the chat. Alex says he knows me.
You good on LinkedIn too, Jose?
On LinkedIn, I mean, it says it started now. It doesn't give me an option to click go live or anything.
Okay, let me check. But yeah, let's start. Who wants to start?
And Andrea was going to kick it off for us. I guess we'll just wait on him.
Yeah, I can see him. By the way, my pleasure to welcome my good friend Ayhan from Turkey is with us. Should talk to him sooner or later. So maybe you can kick this off and start. Just a brief intro about myself. You know me. I'm Andrea from Florence, Italy. Former chairperson for the Trade Finance Secret Hyperledger, from where I quit actually early stuff in January this year. So I'm former, by now, trade finance manager in 2 multinational companies, and with a passion on innovation in the domain of supply chain and trade finance. Now I'm involved with XDC Foundation as business development manager, and also with other collaboration in the domain. So guys, I think it's time for you. Maybe I'll pass it on to you, Venu, to introduce yourself, who you are, what you're doing, what are your specialties, and then I'll hand it over to the guys from DTG USA to introduce themselves and let us know more about them. So I'll mute myself for a few minutes and hand it back to you. Venu, go ahead.
All right. Thank you. And, everybody.
Oh, Venu, your
Venu, you
connection is
cutting off.
cutting off.
Yeah,
You're cutting off with your.
Is it?
It's still cutting out a little bit.
It's still cutting out, bro.
All right. Okay, give me a second. All right, so you guys take on them, and I'll just change my headset. Meanwhile, you can
sound good
continue.
there.
You sound good right now.
All right, good, great. So welcome everybody. I'm so happy to be here, and my name is Venu Borra. I'm a technical architect in the emerging technology space, and been working with emerging technology from past 9 years, blockchain, AI, IoT, and different verticals too, supply chain, trade finance, and fintech. Glad to be here. I'm looking forward to an amazing conversation about the article that we released, our vision of employing new age technologies together and make the best of it. Cheers, guys.
Sounds good,
Over to
man.
you,
Thank you
Jose.
so much. Yeah, thank you everybody for joining. My name is Jose, and it's a pleasure to be here with you guys at this AMA. And at DTG, we are specializing in analyzing the impact of emerging technologies such as blockchain and AI and others on the current business landscapes. As we progress through this series of articles, I'm eager to share our thoughts and dive into discussions of how innovative technologies are revolutionizing trade finance. And I'm looking forward to today's discussion and many more to come.
Bishop, by all means.
Yeah, I'll go. All right, so I'm Bishop Sally, and I'm also representing DTG USA. And as Jose said, we're keen on exploring how emerging technologies can change the way traditional business or just business in general can be revolutionized. Kind of more of my background, I love focusing on blockchain utility. So it's cool seeing how blockchain and other technologies can come together to bring more solutions overall. And yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So same here from DTG USA. My name is Bryan Campos. It's a pleasure and honor to be here along these gentlemen. And we're just here trying to showcase what we've been able to publish, what we put together. A little bit about my background is business and technology, understanding how businesses and moving forward can apply emerging technologies to all different verticals, operations, supply chain. And this is our first dive deep in with DTG as we're trying to see how trade finance and including emerging technologies like IoT, blockchain, and AI can pretty much revolutionize how the trade finance industry currently is conducted and moving forward.
Cool, perfect.
Alright.
So I think it's back to me. The ball is in my ground right now. And I'm going to explain why we're going through this AMA, this Set Say live event. I've always had this idea about the principle of independence in trade finance. When we talk about cross-border trade, you see that there is this in trade finance instrument, the principle reigns over them, meaning that no matter what operativity in some way, it is separated from the payment side. It's understandable because you cannot, especially when you have cross-border trade, you cannot depend on contractual elements that could hinder the payment side. One always had to get paid upon fulfillment of what's been written, especially on the wording of letters of credit and stuff like this. And this is good, but at the same time, it's also limiting in some ways the power of trade finance instruments. So, I mean, my gut feeling is that we should break in some ways those boundaries and unleash the real power of trade finance through digitalization. So, behind us writing down the first article, the writing on the introductory part, is my feeling that, okay, let's keep it principal independence, but let's expand. Nowadays, we have all the instruments fit for doing this. We have blockchain, and that's what we're all here for. But we also have other technology. We have artificial intelligence, machine learning, and we also have IoTs that can capture so many data from real world and enabling trade finance to get closer to day-to-day operativity, enhancing transparency, enhancing visibility. So you enable technology to go to a much deeper level, get down into what's going on in real world. It's rather expanding the present trade finance tools and instruments. And why not in the future, maybe creating new ones that are leaner, more transparent, more effective and inclusive. That's the magic word I was seeking for. So what lies behind our writing is exactly this one. You know it, I told during the introductory part of this call, I'm a trade finance professional. I'm not a coder, I'm not a blockchain architect either. I'll pass it on to somebody that's much deeper into this magic world of blockchain, guys. So it's what Venu, the guys from the ETG today that are backing me up in this first AMA to go much deeper. By the way, thanks Venu for introducing us to this new concept, which is zero trust framework. Guys, let's discuss, let's see how we can go much deeper into this and enable trade finance to step into the 21st century at last with a very open-minded approach. down to earth, effective, and of course, then we can collect opinions from the attendants to test their own gut feelings, their own feelings for what could be done in the future. We love to keep it as a very open, frank discussion, talkative discussion between professionals. Venu, up to you maybe, or Jose, maybe you can introduce. It's like we want. I shut myself up and disappear
All right.
momentarily.
Thanks, Andrea.
Yeah, I just want to state real quick, because initially, at least my personal background, more focused on the blockchain side of things. I do like looking into, AI, IoT, but the way Venu put it together in the zero trust model, it just seemed like a more efficient alternative instead of just having individual technologies running within the network. Like how can all three come together to create the most efficient network? So definitely shout out to Venu for that. Just really bringing this new concept to light, and then how we can all come together and bring more solutions.
Amazing. All right. So before we start, I just wanted to summarize the discussion for you, what to expect. And then, of course, my friends out here have actually prepared a great slide that will basically give you an idea of what we are talking about. All right. So, so of late, we have come up with a series of articles that would basically target or basically have one key objective, that is, how do we modernize the trade finance, because there are a lot of efforts, but the big challenge has always been a legacy baggage in trade finance. All right. So the goal of all of us here is basically to make audience aware that there are other ways to look at more modern, approaches that would help, look at these so-called trade finance documentations and how seamlessly we can ensure the business is quite done. So what we have established in our article that was posted, feel free to always look into our article, with the link is always there in the invite. So what we have done is we wanted to bring in the power of blockchain, AI, and IoT together in a zero trust environment. All right. So we are going to basically, you know, you know, dissect them today, just for the lack of words, dissect each of these technologies together so that you understand what we are actually talking about, what zero trust, how can blockchain, AI, IoT come together to fundamentally empower the most foundational element of trade finance. We started with the principle of independence, right? How it creates that trust guarantees, how which is basically one key element of an LC being issued, how there is a separation of concerns with the principle of independence already. So we're going to talk more about that. So first, I'll probably ask one of my colleague to run through the slides for you so that you have a basic understanding, and then we will go to our questions, because we've been post our article. We're quite happy that we have received number of questions through directly to our DMs, because we are pretty social on LinkedIn. We got questions, so we've collated few of them already. So we'll be answering them for the benefit, and at the same time, all of you who are on the call, please do not hesitate to post your questions on the Q&A section, and we'll take the questions as it is as we go along. All right. So let's make it more interactive. So guys, go ahead. Let's start with the slide, and maybe Bishop or Brian can start with the slides, and then we can take it up from there.
Yeah, I pulled up. Can you guys see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
That's
So,
perfect. Yeah.
All right, awesome. So yeah, our article is Secure Trade Finance Engagement with Blockchain and Zero Trust, presented by Andrea Frosinini, Venu, Borra, Bryan Campos, myself, Bishop Sally, and Jose Gonzales. So a general overview of what we're trying to do. During this AMA, we will be providing a forward-thinking conversation as to how we view these technologies reshaping trade finance by making it more secure, efficient, and transparent with zero trust. So kind of going into what is zero trust. Zero trust is a cybersecurity philosophy that operates on the principle of never trust, always verify. Unlike the traditional security models that assume internal network traffic is safe, Zero Trust treats all traffic as potentially hostile. And the emerging technologies that we're going to deep dive into are blockchain, IoT, AI, with the Zero Trust security model. This is kind of like a general integration of how we see all the elements of each technology. So with the blockchain, in nature, it brings immutability, decentralization, and smart contracts. So with immutability, any data or value you put within the network is interchangeable. So you can't just go in and change it. And if there are any altercations to any of the data or value, it'll be shown on the blockchain. Decentralization, no single authority has power over anyone within the network. And then smart contracts, which automates the use of any value or data being exchanged within the blockchain uh, by having certain parameters being met into the trade transaction. With AI, it brings automated verification. So it's like an extra layer of verification on top of the blockchain, essentially. And then it could bring predictive analysis. So essentially utilizing something like machine learning or other elements that can predict any issues or just ongoing discrepancies that happen within the trade transaction. And then with IoT brings real-time tracking and then also real-time condition status. So if you have any, say like you have goods within the trade transaction, you can see what's happening at all times. So if you have goods being shipped from the United States to Singapore, you would see the status of everything. This is good because if there's any issues, as if like if you have frozen goods and the temperature becomes lower than it should be or higher than it should be, then you can either get rid of the goods or make any changes before the goods reach the end destination. So I also added how these technologies kind of um, come together. So blockchain and AI, it enhances automation because blockchain has a smart contract capability, and then AI can also help automate and verify the use of the smart contracts. And then it also comes together to bring more fraud detection because each item and each person within the network is being identified on the blockchain. And then the AI can also identify if the right person is using the goods or just having the right access to the information. AI and IoT come together, bringing smart predictions. So, like I said earlier, everything is being tracked within the network. So AI can predict, if the goods are being placed in this area or it's being met in certain conditions, then you can make any certain changes that you need to before the goods get received. AI and blockchain come together, bringing tamper-proof data and more instant verifiable data and more secure data. So the data would be tamper-proof because if you want to view it or make any altercations, it would have to be verified through the blockchain and just the network in itself. And then it's more secure because of the immutability of blockchain. So having any IoT data in the platform would be good because with the blockchain, it would make the data immutable, so no one can make any changes or any errors within the platform. So as a whole, in a zero trust model, we think having a zero trust model would bring a more secure platform. It'll make everything more transparent. It'll make everything more verifiable. So not anyone just having access that can make changes at any point. And then overall, it'll bring a more optimized supply chain or any other type of service you're doing. And then it'll just bring more efficient automation all around. So yeah, that's kind of like my brief overview of how these technologies come together. And then now we can get into the AMA. Just ask some questions amongst each other, or if any participants.
I think we lost them.
I think so. All right. Well, we lost him right at a good time. He was just done.
Yeah, I mean, do you guys want to touch up on the Venn diagram a little bit, just
Yeah.
application wise? So he's not. Oh, he's right there. Perfect. So I personally feel like if you look at it from a clockwise point of view, so blockchain could be the first introduction to this zero trust model aspect, where we can automate the smart contracts, making it more executed by predefined conditions, and then the IoT can be introduced to complement the smart contracts with real-time tracking and the conditional status. And then once those two are set in place and are working effectively, the AI could come and pretty much automate the verification process and predictive analysis, bringing all three as a whole to a new way of conducting business. But that's just how I could envision it in a perfect world, obviously.
Yes, and I think one of the things to really take away from this session is all of this is the ideal scenario that we want trade finance and direction that we want trade finance to go in. And so in an ideal scenario, this is where all these emerging technologies combining, it would create the ideal situation for a company or anybody, any trade participant, to be efficient, to be at the most cost effective, to gain the most information, the data, everything surrounding the trade finance industry would be a lot more foolproof, including these technologies. Now, I think we already have a couple questions, so I'd like to just touch up on them. We have one question from Florent, and it says, we explored IoT data for trade finance in the past, and the standards were not there yet, which was a big limit to scale any trade solution. That was 4 years ago. Has this improved? I think, so the question, I'd like to answer that question with, the standards is one of the biggest barriers to moving the direction that it allows for inclusivity for these technologies to be adopted. The standards, the problem with standards is that there's a lot of different organizations creating certain standards. And I think we see that through right now, the first phase of blockchain, having blockchain becoming more integrated into trade finance, like creating a document solution layer to create your trade documents on the blockchain and making it securitized that way. Now that is become more accepted now, like electronic bills of lading, electronic letters of credit is being more accepted now because of the fact that the certain standards were accepted around the biggest organizations that run or that take up most of the majority of stake in that economy of trade finance. And so things like MLETR, those standards have been approved, and now people are trying to adopt the technologies that allows them to accept those standards. So right now, I think the path for how we can implement these solutions in a proper way is still being created. The roadmap is still being, can I say in a better way, still being mapped out. And I think it's conversations like these, it's articles like the ones we're publishing that is allowing for us to begin that conversation or continue the conversation so that we can include everyone at the table so that we can create those standards so that organizations can start to implement these technologies. Because at the end of the day, what we don't want to do is have somebody implement some sort of technology and then the way they implemented, the standard they implemented it under is no longer adopted in 5-10 years. And so it's done for no reason. So it's a slow moving process. A part of it is legislation as well. And so I think it has moved in a certain direction, but what I've seen it most effective with is blockchain. And so blockchain, I think, is the first layer of a standard being created. Then we can get into IoT layer, and then we can get into the AI, which is really, that's more for internal purposes of understanding your data. Now, we have another question here.
Wait, and
Venu,
That's cutting out.
just
Venu, you're
cutting out again.
is it there?
Nah.
You're
Okay.
cutting in and out.
Yeah. If it works with me, because
You're still cutting out, brother.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, now we're good.
All right. Awesome. All right. So thanks, Bryan, for answering the question. So I just wanted to add along with that, So 4 years ago, there definitely was not a lot of data standardization, especially on IoT. Nowadays, the most common formats, even from 4 years, was around MQTT, which is the kind of messaging protocol that was around. But there is a lot of change in the interoperability segment because there is the frameworks which will basically start giving descriptive information. You have the JSON format. I just don't want to get into too technical format, but a lot has changed. You now have interoperable frameworks that you can use with specific data formats and more lightweight devices. So that means the messages are short, easy to be transferred, and at the same time, having the data now being computed at edge devices itself, so that you no longer have to centralize the data, and you can actually have these computed or processed at the edge in the devices itself, and just send most meaningful information, because IoT devices usually are constant data pushers, if I can say that. So it's always the edge devices that control what kind of data. So now there's a lot of ease in the amount of data that is being utilized and processed. So that is quite changed nowadays. Yes, I hope we've answered your question. So please feel free to ask any other questions too. So
Awesome.
yes, Brian, any other questions that you have from the audience?
Yes, so I have here Autumn said, and I think this question actually goes right into a little bit, maybe into the next thing that you can possibly expand upon what you were just talking about. Contract law is upheld by the courts, right? The governments. While this concept was predicted years ago, efficacy will be dependent on acceptance. Where can this perfect world work right now? So how can we, and what situation can we implement this scenario that we're talking about, zero trust, currently, if there is one?
All right, a great question. Appreciate that you've asked this. Now, well, we've reiterated the fact that trade finance in particular needs to be modernized. There is certainly a lot of legacy baggage, even though there are a lot of efforts to modernize. Let's say, for example, blockchain-based LC issuance, maybe like a project called Contour, or you have the modern law of transfer, so MLD, ETR, for that matter. So, and of course, there are a lot of ways that they're trying to modernize, but the problem is baggage of legacy applications or legacy formats. What we are trying to aim here is two things, right? We're trying to foresee an environment that's, secure by the zero trust approach, and we'll expand on that as we go along. So, in a given zero trust approach of security, how well you can utilize these emerging technologies like blockchain, AI, and IoT together. So just envision a triangle where you will have, in a box of secure zero trust environment, you now have a triangle that has blockchain at the bottom that gives reliable data to AI that basically computes or just basically does its magic of reading through the data and then give meaningful results supported by real-time data. That's the goal of our article, and that's how we're trying to envision the future should be. And I'm sure because of the changes that are happening, I see that this is more practical now, and I don't see that there is no reason why people wouldn't go for such an approach going forward.
Fantastic. Thank you, Venu. Now, if I want to continue here, I'm here looking at the Q&A section. I have a question here from Alex. And it says, I worked as an international logistics and operations coordinator. I needed to file for export compliance under USCBP a government agency, regulations through the ACE system. How would this technology help us?
Well, this particular technology that we're talking about emphasizes more on the, the legitimacy, or I would say, uh, the relevance of the document. So that the problem with trade finance, especially, is there is a plethora of documents that need to be supported for, let's say, LC issuance or maybe SDLC for that matter, standby documents, or for that matter, any promissory notes or trust guarantees. So there is a lot of documentation that needs to happen. Now, imagine a situation of blockchain. Now, what's blockchain? Right? Blockchain essentially is a decentralized network powered by a group of people or participants. This participatory nature, when you basically create that environment, you basically ensure that the document is now, properly authorized and at the same time accounted for particular individuals who are responsible to create it. That's how we're trying to create that legitimacy and support from creating that data to an immutable ledger. So that's how we would probably see is that the contracts that are made go through participants who are responsible and ensure that this is valid anytime because it's a time-proof data.
Yes, awesome. Just to continue, Alex continued the question with another aspect that he needed verifying was whether the pickup location was a known shipper. And as it continued asking how this technology can help here. And I think you elaborated on that, on the fact that all participants will be known. If they all participate in this trade transaction, their participation is on the blockchain. And so therefore, as they go through the different steps, everyone that was a part of that transaction will be identified and will be able to know where, like, let's say something goes wrong and at some point there's a pain point, you know exactly where that pain point is. You're able to identify who's associated with that pain point, where it was caused, what caused it. And so you're able to gain a lot more insights from us being able to build on a zero trust network and including all these different technologies. So finding out something like needing to verify where the pickup location and whether that was a known shipper, that information will already, it won't be even a question asked because it'll already be almost identified immediately. It'll be associated with the second step of, or the next step of you simply just verifying, okay, I verify all the participants and now I go on and deliver whatever it is that you have to deliver as your job, as your role in that participation of that transaction. Now, if we go to the next question from Ahan, I have here, if you only focus on the zero trust, what is the most benefit of using zero trust or not? So if we only focus on zero trust, what is the biggest benefit of using zero trust or not using zero trust?
All right. All right, a great question again. And I actually wanted to get an opportunity to talk about zero trust, actually. So let's understand the jargon zero trust first, and then that'll give you an idea of what exactly this is. Now, so zero trust architecture is a security model that runs on a principle called never trust, always verify. The goal of this is, now over the past few years, that through a lot of social engineering, data of the companies from inside is coming out. And then, of course, there is a data leakage. And then, of course, damage to the company's reputation and information, which is confidential, which is supposed to be confidential. So that basically caused the need of securing the organization, not just internally as well, because you would see most of the organizations have a internal parameter or with passwords, firewalls, and all that. But through social engineering, they are able to exploit people internally also. It's no longer secure inside the office or inside the premise that was set for this particular organization. So through this trust model or zero trust architecture, what happens is there is a series of steps that are taken to ensure that both internally and externally the data and employees or transactions are protected. How does it work? So there are three key principles of zero trust here. All right. Number one, right? Least privilege access. That's called least privilege. I'm going to talk about it. Number two is constant monitoring, and number three is micro segmentation. All right. When I say least privilege access, so what that basically means at a high level, you are basically given access to only the required information. Earlier, you let's say for example, in a big organization or enterprise, earlier you had once you have the access, you are able to get the resources or access to any resources inside, be it a bank or be it a big enterprise or anything. Now, as a part of least privilege access principle, you're only given access to resources that you normally use or need. That's least privilege access. Number two, a constant monitoring and identification. So you are basically constantly checked, verified, and you are supposed to get a clear identity that's always verified. So this basically helps secure the data transfer that is happening through the organization in and out. And the third is called micro segmentation. So what's the word micro segmentation here? As it sounds, it's basically a part of the network in the organization where you basically isolate areas of concern or isolate departments or access into small chunks, just for the lack of words again, small departments that can be easily managed. So this is one key piece of zero trust approach. So these three principles, in essence, make sure that you are safe in the enterprise, both in and out. So with that premise set, okay, inside that box, as I said, envision that you just think of you being the enterprise is the box, or you're covered inside the box. Now we are powering it with the best of the technologies that are available to us. Blockchain, reliable data will be inside. So you now have identified participants, all right? And this identified participants will be part of the network, blockchain network. And this blockchain network essentially is now being accounted for. So so what's again, quick thing, blockchain needs a network to operate. So you have participants that create the network and then so on. So zero trust can be both decentralized and centralized as well. Mind you, it's not just like you have to go through a blockchain system or you have to have these new technologies. It's been there. It's a new approach. It's an upcoming approach. You would probably not notice that there are organizations that are already doing it without calling that we are in zero trust. So that's one way of looking at it. So that would cover the core idea of what we're trying to do. So, and of course, what's AI doing? It's just changing everything, entire game for you. So we'll get into the different aspects as we go on. Please do ask questions that we would like to understand. So that's about giving you zero trust. Please do ask questions. All right. So any other question, Bryan?
Yes, we have here. Let me just pull it back up.
I like
All
when the
right.
meetings have a lot of questions, meetings that we're hitting the target.
Yeah, so
So
here I have
you're food for thought for the future.
yeah.
All
From
right, great.
Alex, what is the plan to convince the US government implement this system rather than use its current system? So I'd like to bring this question to a little bit broader into just governments in general, countries in general, implementing or emphasizing that maybe the participants, the people in their country should begin to implement this type of technology. And Jose, I'd like to tailor this question to you on what do you think is the roadmap for governments in general to begin to implement this type of system in contrast to what they currently have?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like to piggyback off of what Ned just said, if I were to read it out loud to everybody, Have we thought about
Please do.
working with the FIT Alliance, which is made up of associations including BIMTO, ICC, SWIFT, etc., as they are working on standardization of trade docs and might have resources to help with this project. So I feel like to get more awareness and traction to this new way of doing business would be by just hosting more of these I would call it workshops and having more open conversations with industry leaders and people that are actively participating within the industry, and just kind of pointing out, you don't know what you don't know. So pointing out the benefits of these new technologies coming into play, and maybe just how to automate, how smart contracts can automate a simple task like an invoice or payment being released when the cargo is reached the destination or things like that. But I'm pretty sure that the US is slowly talking about it. We went to a workshop by it's called NAFTA, is the Trucking Association of the US, and they were talking about EBLs, but they weren't actually adding the all the what we're talking about, where actual blockchain, IoT, and AI would come into play. But the fact that the industry is talking about digitalizing, it's definitely in talks. But that's where we come in as forward thinkers and just try to have these open discussions and see how we can help the industry move forward in a more positive way. But yeah, I hope I answered the question.
Yeah,
Yes,
there's a good
absolutely.
link being shared. Sorry, Brian, shared also by our good friend, my good friend Ayhan, whom I call Ayhan Bey from Turkey. He says the idea of VLEI, of GLEIF, Global Legal Entity Identifier Foundation, would also give some similar points with zero trust. So maybe you can give it a glance.
Yeah, I can talk about that.
Well,
What
I
do you
can,
guys think
I
here,
could
please?
probably, I could probably talk about it just a bit, and then that should basically help the audience too, right? So basically, we have the information of VLEI, that's a verifiable legal entity identifier. Okay, this is another way of identifying information or creating identifiers, and this was through an organization called the Global Identity (GLEIF). Right. Of course, this basically is about one part of zero trust we are talking about. That's essentially talking about creating verifiable credentials. That's important. So with the set standard or a data schema, right? So you basically had this provision. So it looks more quite a bit similar when we talk about identities. However, zero trust is uh, again a bit more than identities, as I said, microsegmentation that focuses more on network. And again, it also talks about constant monitoring, as we also talk. So these are aspects post creating an identity as well. So you'll see a similarity with identity, but zero trust is a bit more on that. But yeah, you will find similarities in short.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I think it would be. Can you guys hear me? Just making sure.
Yes, absolutely. You're good,
Okay.
Bishop.
All
But
right.
yeah, I think implementing something like the LEI could be a good factor of identification, uh, whether it's mainly just for the organizations within the platform, because having the identification of the entity itself on the blockchain and then the goods within that entity, I think it would help organize a lot of the information. As Venu said, it may not be like a main source, but I think it's a good start as a standardization of how we can actually track and implement the data within the zero trust model. So yeah, I definitely agree. It definitely is a good start, and I like your comment on that.
Yes, and I have a comment here from our
Awesome.
friend Ned saying
Mhm.
we should all be at Manifest in Vegas. Oh man. As EBLs is a big topic there. Zero trust would have been a great topic there as also. So okay. The chat is getting very
All right. So
All
let's
right.
move to other questions that we got. Let's take it up.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm trying to. So, Venu, if I could go a little bit, just to kind of come full circle, start to close up a little bit, the AMA session. How do you see the connectivity? How do you see the all communications between IoT, AI, and blockchain working together, collaborating together? You know, what functionality is blockchain bringing to the table? How is it communicating with AI, and vice versa? What value does it bring in terms of connecting with IoT? And then how do how all of them come together to bring the value that that we have we been speaking about?
All right, awesome. So now, if you look at trade finance in particular, all right, so there is a lot of regulation, lot of documentation, at the same time compliance. Right? These are three different aspects. Now, for that, there is a lot of background work that needs to happen. That's always complex in nature, right? When we try and work through a solution like this, what are we trying to aim or sort out is these complex processes are become more streamlined in nature. So the goal would be to ensure that there are streamlined processes going forward, faster transactions, which would yield quick results, and then of course transparency by default. Because one key thing that everybody in trade finance will notice is the risk mitigation. So a lot of thing is there is two kind of markets. In a typical LC scenario, you'll see an importer and exporter with bank involved, but you will also know that there is another market. There is a secondary market that basically buys out these documents at some risk. So basically, the exporter wants to have quick liquidity, and then you would then send this out, these sell these documents out, and then there is always a complex nature that you will come across. So in order to avoid this risks that are involved, you need better visibility, right? So what we're trying to do, so in order to ensure the process are streamlined, we use participatory nature of blockchain. In order to ensure that you have better details of what kind of risks that can be sorted, you have AI, because AI looks at patterns. Essentially, what's AI for you? It looks at a given patterns, tries to understand what can it a potential risk be, and how can you manage the risk. And of course, you will see a lot of when this happens, you will see a lot of cost reduction as well, which is important for a new initiative to come up. So these three things will be the key aspects once these kind of uh, tech premise is utilized in a trade finance scenario. And how I mean, if I could say how you can see a typical use case of it, as I said, let's think of a typical use case of coffee being exported now
Perfect.
from, so let's say, Africa to Europe. Now you will
Okay.
see a lot of cross-border transfer. You will also see a lot of um, agreements and approvals that need to be done. And at the same time, the importer and exporter will have an engagement with the bank, right? But imagine all these participants come under blockchain, and this entire chain of events or points of custody, if you call it, are covered under the security model of zero trust. You would by default create a sort of proof of origin, which is important, a trail which is real time auditable, and then of course data points that can be used for better decision making and quick delivery. And IoT gives you real time information that is needed to validate the information and execution of contracts. So that's how I see this entire process shining.
Right. The value that we gain from combining these three. Awesome.
Awesome.
I guess we just like
Any other
to wrap
questions that
up
you have?
now. Is there anything that anybody has on their mind. Any last minute questions from the audience, please feel free to
Yeah,
put them
any
in.
final thoughts, guys?
So we can wrap it up. But that was very good so
Mm,
far. Many great questions being asked. I cannot be more thankful.
Yes, we
Yeah,
want to
great
thank
great
everyone.
engagement from the audience. Thank you so much, guys, for participating. Everything here spoken today, is taking a step forward in this new way of looking at the business being conducted, and just
For
planting
value.
seeds as to yeah, and just planting seeds as to the new technologies that's out there.
Yes,
Yeah, because
absolutely.
it's one
100%.
thing if it's one thing if us as a collective, DTG, CIFI, and Andrea come together and put the information out there, but it's you guys actually engaging and actually giving us additional insights. I know as to how we can come together. So it's not just us; it's you guys. Bringing that additional information, and we definitely appreciate you guys bringing more engagement and just anything you bring to the table. It definitely goes a long way.
Yeah, let's say that we hidden target for C5 Labs actually because wanted this
Well,
so much in.
uh, guys,
Uh,
I've got one more question
oh,
from
great. Go
the
ahead,
audience.
Venu. Can you hear
Yeah.
me, Venu, by the way?
So
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
you can. I mean,
Yeah.
we can hear you. So I've got a question. So basically, one so John asked this question: how can I use these emerging technologies to these documents in particular? All right. So now I want to kind of split these into different segments so that you understand. So so you have different documents. We've been talking about it in the entire call, but let's say blockchain can be used in document authentication and traceability. And with the power of smart contracts, you can execute certain flows. So that would result in transparency and then accountability, right? So now let's go to AI. Where can it be used? So AI can be used in digitalizing most of the documents and processing. You have OCRs, which is optical character recognition. So what does it mean? You have an image, you have a check, you have invoice. You can extract the data through AI, and then of course you have techniques like NLPs, natural language processing. You have LLMs, large language models. We can summarize, contextualize these documents, and then better use it. And then third, and most importantly, it can also help you with the risk involved. Let's say, for example, uh, say you have lot of documents that come up, right? There is equal opportunity of fraud being happening, and then you'll see counterfeited documents. So that can also be solved. You can create risk mitigation strategy as well through AI. And finally, what's IoT going to do in this whole setup, right? You know, IoTs are, is Internet of Things is basically a bunch of devices that constantly throw information at you, meaning or no meaning. But one key thing happens with IoT is it constantly connects the chain of custody, right? So basically, what is chain of custody? So each point that travels from, let's say, oh, the example that I've taken, coffee beans example, it travels, let's say, for example, Colombia to say Germany. So you have one point at Colombia, which is a farm. Then you have a warehouse, collection warehouse in, let's say, somewhere else, say Italy. So you have a processing center in, say, some different place. Now these each places are called chain of custodies. So the monitoring can be done with IoT, and of course, with QR codes you can really verify the documents then and there real time. So these are the ways that one can use these technologies. And mind you, lastly, this is all done in the zero trust model. So everything comes safe and secure inside, and things can be sorted out. So John, hopefully this gives you an idea of where you can exactly use it. Feel free to DM us for any other questions around it. All right, cool. So Bryan, over to you.
All right. Well, I think we're gonna wrap up now, right? There's no more final questions. I just want to
Nope.
double check. Okay, cool.
I think we can wrap it up.
All right. Well,
I give a
everyone.
moment and maybe to the audience for the follow-up. We're going to expand
Yes.
discussions. We want to deliver more about trade finance within CIFI Labs. So great to have you guys with us today. It was a very
Yes,
insightful
this is
discussion. And as a starting point, this is really great. It was great conversation, very smooth, very friendly, with some good brainstorming for the future. And it's always great to confront each other in a positive way.
So do watch out for many more AMS coming together. I thoroughly
And
enjoyed
many,
the
many more in the
conversation today.
future.
Yeah, definitely, yes.
I want
Wonderful.
to thank
All right, any
everyone for
final thoughts?
All right,
participating
gentlemen.
today.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Cheers.
everybody,
All
for
right,
taking
thank you
time
so
out your
much,
day,
guys.
Yeah.
and looking forward to further discussions. Have a great day.
Absolutely.
All right,
Bye.
Have a
enjoy.
great day.
Catch you
Take
guys
care.
later.
Take care.
Bye, guys.
Thank you guys for joining.